Well, the top of the morning to you, and welcome to Brian Buffini's Bold Predictions, our mid-year update. We have a very, very cool program for you today with some really powerful innovation that we're bringing to this current market condition. So let's talk about the state of the market to get the ball rolling. How are you guys doing? Well, production is down. Sales are down. The average sales agent volume is down from 3.4 million to 2.5 million. So that's where the average sales agent is. That's a 27% drop off in volume, which is, again, difficult at a time when prices have risen in your lifestyle. So we know inflation over the last 4 years is at about 20%. So every $1,000 is worth 800. And at the same time, your production is down. We understand that. We also know that where we are with regards to the real estate business. In NAR's most recent member profile, they showed that only 73% of realtors were certain they would be in the business over the next 2 years. What does that mean? That 27%, one out of every 4 realtors, is not certain they're even going to be in this business 2 years from now. Let me say this, that doesn't speak to professionalism. It doesn't speak to making long-term commitments to the customer and the industry. So that would be one of my unique selling propositions. Say 1 out of 4 agents plan to get it, not even sure they want to be in this business. I'm in this for the long haul. I want to walk you through what we've been teaching for years and years. Our research team did this after analyzing 47 years of the market, and we christened it the Dooley curve. And basically, homes listed for sale by season look like this. 40% of all listings are taken through that mid-January through the end of March period, 20% June, July, and then 25% in mid-October through mid-December. And that historically has been what real estate looks like. And if you add up all those numbers, you'll see, yes, it adds up to 85%. Why? Because some people list their houses in May and some in September and things like that. But what that allows you to know is these are the seasons where you need to be most active, most prolific in your marketing, and most face-to-face and voice-to-voice with your customer base. Well, as we talked about in the last year's year-end Bold Predictions, we talked about what we thought the year might look like, and it has panned out like this. And that is that it's the opposite. That 25% of homes listed would happen between January and March, and it's been almost exactly that. We're seeing right now with the summertime, you'll see inventory levels are creeping up. We'll share some data on that. But the big push for this year will be in the fall. We've been talking about this since late last year, and it's playing itself out. In fact, the Deputy Chief Economist and President of NAR, and Vice President of NAR Research, Jessica Lotz, said the recent economic releases show a spring landscape that is taking longer to bloom. And we agree, Jessica, we've talked about this since last year. We predicted this. Realtor.com senior economist, Ralph McLaughlin, said, the biggest eye catcher for me is the fact that inventory is rising sharply. There are 36.7% more homes on the market than this time last year, which is an incredible trend in the direction of normality. Hey, how about that, normality? Wouldn't that be nice in our landscape, in our environment, in our culture, but certainly in our industry? And so it is happening. Listings are staying on the market longer, and inventory is creeping up. That is why last year we launched the Do It Now campaign. And those of you who are using the Do It Now campaign, I'm just going to encourage you to stay the course. Those of you who have not yet been exposed to it, you might want to check it out. Basically, this is our program where we've customized marketing messaging and promotional messaging specifically for a late bloom, for the 10 reasons why people are moving, and then target marketing those 10 different groups. And just the numbers are in. Again, the NAR member number just came in just a few days ago, and the average NAR sales agent made $45,000 last year, as opposed to the average Buffini & Company coach member is now over 10 times that at $460,000. So the information we're giving you, the system we teach, the Do It Now campaign, the coaching program is producing results in this environment. And so just keep on keeping on. The fall is coming. Now is the time. You cannot complain about your results of a poor fall if you didn't plant seeds now. So you've got to be planting seeds with your database, with your customer base, with the relationships you have. And what's happened with all of these changes in the market, it is a more deeply needed relationship-driven business than ever before. And it is more in need of a trusted advisor, a professional advisor, and someone who's actually cultivating and marketing to their database that way. So last December, I gave you my bold predictions of what I thought we'd see. We were down from a high of 6.1 million sales in 2021 down to 3.9 million, which was the lowest. Some economists say the lowest number of sales since 93. Others argue 95. Bottom line is there was 80 million less people in the country when the sales were this low. So the truth of the matter is this market is the worst we've seen in a very long time. Because if you have the same number of sales as when we had 80 million people less in 1993 or 95, boy, percentage-wise, this is much lower. I forecasted that we would have 4.6 million sales this year and 5.3 million next year. And by the way, it looks like that's right on target. Now, the interesting part about that, and I'm going to pony up here, is how we're getting there is different than what I thought. What I thought was, hey, we had this massive run up in the interest rates all the way up till, basically a peak of 8%, right? So the interest rates went from 3.7 down to 2.6 to 3.2 and then up to 8. And I thought we'd be below 6. I thought we'd have 3 rate cuts this year and down to 5 next year. And what's happened is the amount of spending that's happened has created an artificial market. And that's where the inflation's coming from. That's why the average person sees their grocery bills, sees their gas bills, sees everything else, and they're struggling. But what's happened is giant corporations and those in whether it be the CHIPS Act, whether it be the infrastructure bills, all that money starting to flow into those major corporations. They're flush with cash. So what's happened? Inflation has been stubborn. We do believe there'll be at least 1 rate cut this year. Some say September, some say November. But what's happening is the sales volume is happening. The sales volume is happening. And that's because people have gotten a little immune to the high prices. And as I'll share in a minute, rents continue to escalate. So here's the good news. We were right on the transactions. We were wrong on the rates. And so I want to give you an update on where rates should finish. And I'll show you where I got the content. So I believe 2024 will be around 6.67. And again, right now you're at kind of 6.8, 6.8.5. And then 2025, again, gentle cuts down to 6.25. I do believe the volumes are going to hold. We'll be at 4.6 and 5.3. I think it'll be a big year next year too. But a big fall, big spring next year, it's time to plant the seeds now. So what we did for you for the mortgage rate projections, because I know that's a big deal, is I want to give you a little bit of the secret sauce of where we do our research. So here's the third quarter and fourth quarter. So we go Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association, NAR, and then an average of all 3. So Fannie Mae says, hey, third quarter be 6.8, 6.8. NAR saying 6.9, and the average of all 3 is 6.83. Fourth quarter, 6.7, 6.6, 6.5, an average of 6.675. I think you'll be pretty right on with those averages. To all our Canadian friends, and we have many tens of thousands of clients in Canada, the rates have already taken a little hit, and it's been the first rate cut in a long time up in Canada, and it's been formalized. So you still have some very nice looking rates up in there in Canada. Things are good. You get so much American media that American media promoting 7% rates or 6.8% rates makes the folks in Canada feel like I'm getting a deal. Now your average sales price is increased, but there you go. We see the canary in the coal mine, the Canadian market, which is run off a different set of T-bills than the American system is. So therefore, we've seen those rates come down. So what do we know? People have gotten somewhat immune to the rates. People are getting a lot of help with their down payments. Demand is still super high. And one of the reasons demand is so high and will remain high is we have a housing shortage and rents have been going up. Rent prices have increased 30% since 2020. And the average person has not gotten a 30% pay raise since 2020. In fact, it gets a little deeper when you dig in. 22 million renters say their rent accounts for 30% of their income. And in fact, 12 million of those say it's 50%. Now think about that. There's no tax deduction with rent. There's no equity appreciation. You're not buying down a mortgage. So there's just a massive, massive pressure on renters, which is creating that still ever-evolving pressure in the rental market, in the purchase market. Again, I shared this at Bold Predictions. I've shared this at a number of our events this year. Out of the 72 million millennials, which is the on-deck circle for real estate, 45.5 million are in this household formation age. I just had a son get married on the 1st of June. My daughter got engaged last week. So I'm seeing the household formations front and center in my own life. And here's what I know. They're not living with me. So they're buying houses, they're renting houses, they're moving into the marketplace. With all of the pressure of how high prices have gotten, how high the interest rates are, the most startling statistic that I've seen this year is still this: 31% of sales were first-time buyers. Now, the first-time buyers tend to be a little bit older, and we're not buying as young as we used to. People are getting help with the down payment. There's a ton of potential on-deck buyers. Rents are still escalating. The rates are going to start inching down. And now is the time. Inventory's inched up. We're getting to a much more normalized market. And unfortunately, every time we have a massive run-up in the market, what tends to happen is, and in my 40 years in the business, I've witnessed a number of the lawsuits against real estate. They typically come out when the market is raging hot. When the market's raging hot, it's obvious practices and professionalism tend to dip. The problem with this time is that we had an 11-year run-up. And that 11-year run-up has led to some poor practices, and it allowed more and more opportunity for these lawsuits to come and target the real estate industry.